Macungie area. He's the father of 3 sons.
Daughters.
Oh, does
It
say
says girls.
girls. Whose handwriting is this? His daughters.
Now you know my Rick Fast.
He's in a club well beyond mine. He was recently remarried to his wife, Jackie, and he's an avid hunter, and he's a board member for the Selective Service. Everyone, please welcome Doug Brinker.
I'm gonna go without the mic. How do I turn it off?
Press the power button.
Press the power button.
Thing echoes a bit. So, Rick says to me Saturday morning as we're flipping eggs, hey, can you do this? And I forget what you called it, and I had to
Classification talk. Classification talk.
So I'm at home later Saturday, and I talked to my wife about it, and she goes, she's a school teacher. She says, I think it's show and tell. So I'm like, okay. It's for big kids. All right. So planned on putting it together on Sunday. I have a veterans meeting down in Philadelphia. I do once a month, and that was this Sunday. Usually about an hour meeting. It's an hour down, an hour back, and an hour meeting. We had a lot of things we had to discuss. So that meeting went 4 hours. There went Sunday. And then back to the grind Monday, Tuesday. This was literally put together last night. Well, actually early this morning. So I'm going off the hip here, okay? So, my name is Doug Brinker. My grandparents were Obadiah and Helen Brinker. They lived right across the street from Bethany Church over on Brookside Road. I've got a picture of my dad standing on Brookside Road back when it was still dirt. My grandfather was a railroad engineer. My father was Donald Brinker. He only ever had one job. Out of high school, he started working at Alberta's Machine and went from sweeping chips and washing windows to later managing the place. Alberta's Machine made the big steel back when we were in the big steel business. My dad made the mixing bowls for M&M candies and a couple different things for NASA and the government. I remember he had these huge brake pads, and I just was young and looking at these things. They span more than almost half the room here. And I said, "What are those for?" And he says, "There's 6 of them, and those are the brakes for the anchor on an aircraft carrier." So I was like, "That's pretty cool." So the Alberta's Machine then got sold out. They were owned by Cannon Saul. Became Amity Machine, which is still there to this day. Big Steel left. They decided to move things over to aluminum. A little piece of unknown knowledge. There's not a fire truck on this side of the Mississippi that doesn't have parts on it that don't come out with Alberta's. So my mother was Eleanor. Her parents are John and Grace Swigert. Swigert have been in the area. My Uncle Booper is up on top of the hill there. My grandfather was a concrete mason. That was one of my first jobs. He would drop me off and hand me an 8-pound sledgehammer and say, "Start busting up the sidewalk. We'll be back." Don't ever go to work for, well, my grandfather's passed on now, but he would, Friday was the day that they would finish half day and go to the bar. So Friday morning, drops me off on a box of donuts up in Whitehall to start busting up the sidewalk. We didn't have cell phones back then, so I had to go knock on a lady's door about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and call my grandmother and said, hey, Mammy, where's Pappy at?" "Well, he's passed out on the couch watching the game." They call my dad. My mom was a teacher. She taught Latin over at Swain School and some other various classes over there. So I was born to Fogasville in 1970, moved to Macungie in 1977, started second and third grade up at what's now the Macungie Institute, rightfully named. and graduated Emmaus Senior High School in '87, but didn't walk the platform till 1988. I had mishaps early on in my education, so we came back around. 1987, well, before then I kind of got my act back together, and now I had too many courses. So in 1987, I had, for my senior year, I only needed English and American history. So they said they would let me out if I spent the summer taking an English course at a college, and then I clept the American history. So, but then my mom wanted me to walk, so I ended up did my first year. Everybody else was a senior, and I came back and walked in 1988. Spent 2 years at L-Tri-C studying engineering, somewhere between mid-semester calculus 2. I said I've had enough, and the tire fell off my Mustang at the right spot. I was walking down, the only place that was open in that area was the recruiting substation, and I kind of looked at the Marine recruiter and said, if you can get me out of town in 10 days, I'm yours. And he looked at me and says, you in trouble, son? I said, not yet. And so that's where the slides will begin. This picture was taken in Camp Lejeune. I got into boot camp, and right after rifle qual, I was a serious high shooter. So shooting BB guns back here in the mountains paid off. So right after that, I broke my leg during boot camp. My big fear was getting recycled, not graduating, having to come home, failing, all that. So I didn't tell anybody, except for only a couple of friends of mine in boot camp knew about it. And anytime anybody went from dental, they would go commandeer their Motrin, and I was chewing those things like M&Ms. It was somewhere around about 3 weeks after that, I'm standing in the shower, and I took a boot. When guys would drop out or get kicked out, their gear went in the corner and it became up for grabs. So I took the 2 a.m. fire watch every morning, and that's when I would take my shower, because if we weren't running in PT gear, I took a boot and I rubbed it up against the rack until I sold off the bottom piece, used that as a brace on my leg. So I'm in the shower, 2 o'clock in the morning, senior drill instructor came in. It was a Saturday night, and he was coming in at about 2:30 from the bar. His Sunday was his shift. He starts yelling at me, what are you doing in the shower? And I looked at him and I said, well, I'm pretty sure I broke my leg wearing weapons a week. And he's like, what? You kept going through this. So I had graduated boot camp with honors, and then got to School of Infantry. They pulled me aside. I joined to be an MP because I figured I'll do my 4 years, come out and be a cop. And they pulled me aside and said, we want you to do something else. Didn't know I could say no then. I wanted to be an MP for one reason. They have cars, they don't run. I hate running. So it turns out what they wanted me to do was join reconnaissance. Didn't know to say no. So that's what I did. So instead of driving around in a car and not running, I was running in the swim trunks, running in UDTs. I was running with flippers on my back. We just ran everywhere. I was running on the beach, running up the mountains. We just ran everywhere. So that's where we are here. Well, I'll go through the record, then I'll go through the pictures. So I spent the first 2 years in Marine Recon, 3 Alpha. Then 3 Alpha got disbanded back in 1992. Then I spent 1 year as a training NCO for Fast Company. I got injured over in Somalia and spent the next 3 years. They said, you can't do this anymore. You want to do it? I said, well, I joined to be an MP. It's all right. So they said, okay, we'll make you an MP, but you're going to have to extend or re-enlist in order to do that. So, thanks. So I spent 3 years as an MP out in California. Got out of the Marines in 1995. My first job was selling windows for Appleby. That's probably what the book's going to be written on when I get to sitting down and writing it. If you've ever done in-home sales, don't do it. But it's interesting as all get out. One of the individuals I was trying to sell windows to, and he wouldn't buy them, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was calling the cops because I wouldn't leave. He finally said to me, you know, he goes, I want you working for us. And I said, well, who's us? And he worked for Sunoco. So for the next 2 years, I was on the Sunoco maintenance team. I got laid off 6 days before Christmas. Then I went to work for Kraft Foods for 2 years. They laid me off 14 days before Christmas. So I kind of sat there and said, you know what? I said, the only way to make it in America is to be a business owner. A, no one can fire you, okay? Or lay you off. But I needed money, so I went back to doing what I knew best, and I spent 2 years with Blackwater as a military contractor. Came out, spent the next 2 years studying what I'm doing now, and started that at Edward Jones, opened up an office out in Whitehall. Quickly realized I was taking most of my efforts and handing them to another company, so I went independent, opened up Brinker Financial Group, and that business is still going to this day, even though during that interim I did 3 years at Allstate where I met JP, and I have now been at Nutropoli Bank for 3 years. They recruited me away from Allstate to start the program that I'm in now. They wanted a financial planner in-house, company out in San Antonio, Texas. Married the two of us together, and that's where I'm at, and that's where I plan to stay. We're building a branch out there on Buckeye Road. They're going to give me a nice office inside that branch with an outside entrance, so I don't have to stay when they close the vault, or at least so I can stay after they close the vault. And that's where we're going to be. So I'll move on to the pictures here. This is Camp Lejeune. I'm in a hole right there, but okay. So this picture is taken somewhere between in 1990 during the Gulf War. That's me here. This is the 3rd Recon Company's 2nd Platoon. This picture is taken. We're sitting on the up top wing of a submarine. That's me here. This is in the Pacific Ocean off of Hawaii, somewhere between 1991 and 92. I don't exactly know. We moved around so much. We're going here and there and everywhere. It was kind of hard to keep track of stuff. I only knew it was Christmas. This guy started going home on leave. And this is that same submarine. Here's the wing that we were standing on. You got 2 guys up top. Their job was shark watch, because it was Sunday. The sub surfaced, and we were all out swimming. But it's Pacific Ocean. You got sharks all over the place. So we had 2 guys up top to look out for sharks. So everybody could swim back in. Funny story. Don't shave the day before that, because if you nick yourself, you're all in trouble. But the sub, I never had a problem with claustrophobia. I figured out I was claustrophobic a couple years ago. I blew my shoulders out, and they put me in the MRI machine, and I got about this far as they get me out, get me out, get me out. It didn't make any sense to me, because inside the submarine is a chamber, and 6 of us would sit inside that chamber. It's not very big, it's very tight, you're almost head to head, and you put your gear on, and then they start flooding it with water. Okay? And that door doesn't open until it's completely flooded with water, and that's when you sit there and go, I hope this thing works. There we are getting dropped off swim training. That's out in Saudi Arabia. We were doing dive training, Metafield Bay. the friendly camel. I got a great camel story, but you're gonna have to ask me that one over a beer. That was my team. That picture is taken in Somalia. That's Somalia. We're looking over in Mogadishu and the market. So I wanted to drive. So it's all right, we'll make you the driver. So the one time I go out and am the driver, here's pew, pew. So somebody decided to take some shots at us. Back window's been, was blown out, had been blown out. This truck was a RAV4, I think. By the time we were done, it looked like Swiss cheese. All right. So then I got out of that, went back into the MP side of the house, or became an MP. Was down in Paris Island, this is where this picture was taken. That's TJ, Thor Jr. He was the Marine Corps' Paris Island-based mascot. We fought like dogs to take that dog to graduation. Every Friday's graduation, new Marine recruits graduate. Okay? What do all these graduates have? Sisters. And they love that ugly dog. We fought for that. There's me and my mom. The Jeep, great story. Off of Paris Island, there's an area called General's Landing. Me and Joe Gore were sitting there. There was some kind of meteor shower coming overhead about that time. So if you went out to General's Landing where there were no lights, you could see the shooting stars, meteors burning off as they came in. So everybody's out there, bonfire, drinking, having a good time. Me and Joe are kind of solving the world's problems in the Jeep there. And we've got a good amount of cheap beer in us. And I said to Joe, I said, where do you think these meteors are landing? And he said, he goes, they're probably bombing England right now. I said, oh my God, we got to save the Queen. I started the Jeep up, put it in gear, four-wheel, right into the ocean. They were not impressed. Part of my duties was to be an MP. This is one of the cell blocks. Now on Paris Island, and when I ended up going out to California, I was in charge of a bigger brig. But you'll see the Bud Light here in the corner. We couldn't take pictures inside the brig back then, but if you go down to Paris Island now, they've turned the brig into a bar. It's called the Brig and Brew. They're using the old cell block to store the beer in. I've spent countless hours sitting right about here. That beer would have helped back then because there was absolutely nothing to do or look at. Keeping in, once a Marine, always a Marine. I came out and started having the same problems that a lot of other guys have when they come back from war and whatnot. Is nobody understands you. So I found a motorcycle group, Leathernecks Motorcycle Club. I've been riding motorcycles since I was 8 years old, and these guys, that's basically what that organization's about. It's all Marines. They come from all walks of life. This guy here, Doc, he's a chiropractor. That guy over here, he's an FBI agent. He's retired now, but this picture was taken Wildwood about 7 years ago. So I have a dual life. I have my motorcycle life and then I have my business life. And it's funny because in the motorcycle world, I mean, you got some guys that are kind of, they fit the TV series aspect of things. I've stood behind one of them in a suit at Walmart. He had no clue who the heck I was. And I've also stood behind a customer of mine at Arita's dressed as a biker, and she had no idea who the heck I was. So, but what we do is raise awareness for military veterans and whatnot. I came up with the Semper Fi Fest. This was our logo in 2015. All the money, we do that up in Northampton, the first weekend of August. All the money goes to the Semper Fi Fund. That's me, and this is Rick from Orange County Choppers. That's the professional side. This picture was taken when I worked as Kraft Foods in accounting, and that was the team of guys that I worked with. Hey, all golfers, by the way. Get on that. Did various things. I worked as a bouncer for a short period of time out at Crocodile Rock, if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Tried my hand at professional mountain biking. Moved down to Atlanta in 2008. These are my kids. This is my oldest daughter, my daughter Brooke, and my daughter Dakota. They've pretty much been my mission in life. My oldest daughter, I was traveling the world, going to third world country to third world country, so I missed a lot of her early years. So I'm making a point to be there for my other daughter. So this is my oldest daughter, Alexis. I graduated at Emmaus High School as a cheerleader. This is prom. She graduated from Kutztown University. She now works at Vanguard. My daughter Brooke, she's 13, going on 14 this month, actually a couple weeks. My daughter Dakota, she's 12. They are involved in everything. I have no money, folks. This is judo classes, guitar lessons, parquettes, riding. I got them a go-kart so they could run around at Grandma's. I have to mow the lawn now because they tore it up. Ballet, and that's them now. So they've grown up to be fine young ladies. Met my wife 6 years ago. We dated my current wife 6 years ago. That's her son, Stephen. I had to see if she could do the duality of life the way that I do it. So this is at a benefit charity. So I could see if she was dressed up, and then dressed down, and biker chick. This is probably
Strip
my
club
favorite
choppers.
picture.
I like the clubs.
This is my favorite picture of all time. This guy is a financial planner. She has a PhD in literature and teaches 12th grade English. So I married her. And when I say recently, I mean recently, March 11th this year.
Awesome.
That's it.